This is a demonstration of the invoicing functionality thus far in Emporio. There's still more work to be done, but we'll take a look at what's happening so far. In a regular contract, this functionality is all the same as it was before. Editing, adding items, changing items, deleting items. This has always only ever been informational. It's not functional. It needs to be functional for invoicing to work. So that's what the development has been about so far. This button, this switcher, is available to Mike and myself to explore the new and demonstrate the new functionality. When we're ready to release the new functionality, that'll disappear and this whole table will be replaced with the new table. But let's take a look at what it does. So on the units of measure, I've split them into columns. And you have the number of units, so the number of days and the rate per day. And so we'll play with the troweler here. And I'll say for 1 week, we go here, we hit the up arrow. It calculates the total for the item, and it calculates the subtotal and the tax at 13%, and the total for the contract. Now I can also say 1.5 weeks. I can't use the arrows for fractions, but I can go 1.5. Tab out of it or click out of it, and it calculates that for you. But another thing that you can do is you can say it wasn't a half week, it was just 1 day, so it's 1 week and 1 day, which is a little bit less. And that required in the database to store a row of data for each one of these combinations if they're non-zero. Okay. Now another thing that can happen is you can have a change of price. So let's imagine that the troweler was $302 when this was rented back at the start of September. But the default value is the current price. So what we can do is we can change this $302, put that in so that this contract uses the old pricing. And that sticks around as long as this is non-zero. So if I reload that, I still get the 302. However, if I reduce this down to 0, now there's no record of this. It's gone from the database, and if I reload, you'll see that the price is defaulted back to 316. But the functionality is there in case you have pricing changes, and we hope that that won't happen so often that it's going to be an issue when you wipe it out, because you're probably going to change that, print the invoice, be done with it. Now, a couple of enhancements that need to happen. Obviously, I need the add rental item. I need to be able to click on these in order to choose different items. I need to be able to delete. That's all functionality that exists over here in the first interface. I just have to move it over to the new interface. One more thing that I'll do is the tax right now is being, it's hard-coded as 13%. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that tax at the default of 13, but there will be a 13 in a text box much like this, where we'll be able to change the tax rate. And the reason that we'll have to do that is that if in 6 months from now the provincial government changes the tax rate, we'll change the default, but we're going to have to deal with different tax rates as we go through that transition phase. And we'll have to be able to edit that tax rate and recalculate the totals. So that'll be an enhancement I'll be putting in shortly, because it's not, I'm working in this area and it's not too hard to do. I'll zero this out and we'll take a look at another type of contract, because that contract is a regular contract, but we have to take a look at one that has rental by quantity, and these platforms here are rental by quantity. So if I take a look at the new interface, you'll see that now I have a quantity column, and it still calculates 0 because I haven't set the rate of, I haven't used the unit of measure, but if I do, I say I have 1 day for 1 item, and it's $3.50. But if I increase to 2 days, of course that goes to 7. If I increase to 2 items, that'll increase to 14. Now you can't reduce this down to 0. Like if I put in a 0 here, it's going to bounce back to 1 because it doesn't make sense to have it in the row. If you need to reduce this down to 0 for the number of units on a rental by quantity, you're going to use the X. Okay, so if I try to put in letters here, it doesn't work. It just goes back to 1. Similarly here, all of these items, I can't put in numbers, letters. It's going to take them out for me. Okay, so that's how the rental by quantity is going to appear. If this rental contract had some rental by quantity and some not rental by quantity, just regular rentals, there won't be a 1 here. It'll be hidden, and you'll just have the label. So this value will only appear for rental by quantity items. Further to that, as we work through and add the sales items will go in here, and I'm planning on having the min each be where the price goes and the quantity. Because if I put the quantity over here, that quantity will force another column in a rental contract, and I don't really want that column if it's not being used. So that's how that whole system is going to work, and I'm going to continue to do the other enhancements, but we can't really fully release this until I have the sales items and the invoicing and control of sales items happening. So we will we'll continue with that development as we in the next couple of weeks. Okay, thanks.